the mid 2000s was like a weird time for like bands that came from like our era. So we were kind of just putting out whatever the fuck we wanted, not even worrying about trying to like be old Strung Out or be a part of what was the new scene.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was The Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Strung Out is an American punk rock band from Simi Valley, California. They are known mainly for their musical style, which fuses aspects of melodic punk rock, progressive rock, and heavy metal to form their primary sound. They have released 9 studio albums, that's what it says on Wikipedia, on Fat Records, as well as 1 live album, 2 B-sides collections, a best of, a box set, and appeared on numerous compilations and skate surf, dirt bike, off-roading videos. Wow, that's a lot. They have played on the Warped Tour and continue to tour internationally. Well, just not right now, but they'll get back on the road when this thing goes away. They were one of those bands back in the day that were in rotation when my friends would be driving around northern New Jersey, headed to places like Flipside, or going to shows, or even going to the Rockaway Mall, which didn't get torn down, by the way, Victoria. It's an inside joke. You'd have to be in the group to understand. You can check out the Wendy Cherry interview, episode 79, where she talks about the Jim Cherry days in the band. That's also a very great episode, and Wendy is awesome, so you should definitely listen to that after you listen to this. Luckily, Jake checked out that interview and also wanted to talk about the band, so I got him on Skype, and this is what we talked about. How they dealt with the early 2000s, the video for Bring Out Your Dead, the early scene in Southern California, their Astrolux symbol, renting RVs to tour in, putting out albums after Jim Cherry wasn't in the band, his thoughts on still playing shows, dying on stage, and a ton more. Make sure you check out their beer, which is for sale on craftshack.com. I have a link in the show notes and on their episode webpage. And you can also check them out at strungoutofficial.com, where they're selling a quarantine shirt to help the band out in this time of quarantine. I have a link for that in the show notes as well. Real quick before I start, check out houseofmerch.com, where you can get 10% off by using the promo code SCENE. SCENE, just like the title of the show. This company is run by my old drummer Sean from Lane Meyer, and you can get a ton of shirts of your favorite bands, large and larger, as I keep saying. The prices are super low compared to the websites out there, and there's free shipping. So again, check it out, houseofmerch.com, use promo code SCENE to get 10% off, and you get free shipping. So why not go do that? Thank you again, all the Patreon supporters who keep signing up. This is really helpful, especially now. This helps with all the costs of this thing. And you guys are great. And also, anyone who's donated or bought merch, you're also fucking fantastic. If you want to be part of the Cool Kids Club, then just go to thiswasthescene.com, where you can choose any of those 3 options if you want to. If you want to stay up to date in the podcast, you can go follow me on Instagram. It's This Was The Scene. You can also follow me on Facebook, where I keep people up to date on what's going on. You can also tag people in any posts, or you can send them links to any of those pages that they could check out. This helps spread the word, which is really helpful at keeping this thing going. And that's about it. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some punk rock nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. I was actually just going down a little bit of a wormhole or rabbit hole, just listening to some of your guys' stuff. And
oh, cool.
So years ago, I was married, and my brother-in-law, my ex-brother-in-law, he used to work for Razor and Tie and used to work for like Red Management back in the day.
Oh,
so he
okay.
was like huge into music, and every year he'd put together these Christmas comps where he would just do all these songs. And this one year he put on a bunch of songs, but he put on what did he put on? I think it was like Heart Attack or Black Crosses from Agency of the Underground.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, is that fucking Strung Out? Because I hadn't heard you guys in a while. And he's like, yeah. I was like, holy shit. So I ended up buying that album, and I was like, this is so fucking awesome. And
oh, thanks, dude.
yeah, and like I'm not like one to like sit here and like kiss people's asses. I just want to give credit where credit's due. But like Fever in the Sound, that fucking song was in my running playlist for like, Christ, 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that is
dude, that's killer, man.
That is the best song to run. It like just fires you the fuck up once it like kicks in. It's so fucking good, man.
I mean, that was an interesting album because we were kind of the record before that, the Blackhawks record, was kind of a mid-tempo rock record almost in like our big catalog. If you look at like our albums, it was just kind of a, I don't know, it was kind of an experimental, just a comfortable album. And the mid 2000s was like a weird time for like bands that came from like our era. So we were kind of just putting out whatever the fuck we wanted, not even worrying about trying to like be old Strung Out or be a part of what was the new scene. So that record, you know, when we did Agents, it was kind of like, okay, let's amp things back up a little more. Let's put some more energy into these songs. Like try to really consciously kind of. So I think there's a bit more high energy stuff on that record than certainly the Blackhawks record.
Yeah, it's fucking great. I mean, I can imagine. I've had this whole podcast, which I've said pretty much every single fucking episode, is that focus on the late 90s, early 2000s, where I basically like try to stay, but because that era between, you know, the early 2000s was such a trend, it was just this shift of song where I can imagine like you guys got kind of swallowed up, or that, not you guys, but like a lot of bands with that SoCal sound.
Oh yeah,
kind
it
of
was a
got
very
dismissed.
interesting
Yeah.
decade right there. You know, the transition from what was a very, you know, like in the late 90s, the Fat Records epitaph, you know, sound was very prominent. It was very popular, you know, and then you had a lot of, you know, stuff coming out in New York. You had, you know, scenes in DC and, you know, all over the place, Chicago, a ton of bands coming out. But yeah, that scene was really a strong thing. And then early like 2002, I kind of noticed like, wait a minute, like something's really changing with some of these other underground labels that were always kind of like second tier to like Fat Records or something.
Yeah.
Suddenly they were like surpassing Fat Records with like a lot of attention from like press and a lot of things. And these bands were getting this like crazy attention that like our bands never really got. So, and we didn't care. We didn't really want it. But suddenly it was like, okay, wait a minute, like something new is sort of bubbling here. And that became a thing to where a lot of our bands from the 90s kind of dropped off and didn't really put out a lot of releases or do a lot of touring between like 2003 and like 2010 or like 11. And we tried to keep it pretty consistent. You know, we kept releasing things every 2 to 3 years, but it was definitely an interesting time to look back on and time to be a part of.
Yeah, you guys basically, I mean, I think I said this in Wendy Cherry's interview. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to that. 'Cause you just,
I did hear that. That was a great one.
yeah, it was cool. Like I never knew that story. I didn't know anything about Jim. I didn't know how much of a, you know, contribution he was when he was in the band. But I think I might have mentioned in that interview, it was so like the late 90s. That's when like the music that I got into was very SoCal based. It was my friends were listening to Face to Face and NoFX, you guys, Christ, who else?
There were too many of us, dude. There were so many bands in like that kind of scene.
Yeah, but
know,
you guys were that one band that I remember this vividly. There was a buddy of mine. He was our roadie for the last tour we did, and he was big into very obscure bands, like huge Weaker Thans fan, but like, what other fucking band? It was like into Murder City Devils and all these bands that I hadn't heard of, but they were just so different, like Rocker from the Crypt. But he fucking loved you guys. And I remember I had a lot of friends that were into those different sounds, but you guys were always that band that everyone would agree on. They're like, yeah, Strung Out, like that band's fucking awesome. I'm like, yeah, but
that's really cool.
I know, but it's like, you guys don't like that style of music. They're like, yeah, but that fucking band's amazing.
So that's cool. Well, that means something because we didn't want to just coast on like being a part of Fat Records because there was certainly a sound and you could do things to really kind of cater to that sound. And we had a lot of those roots in us, but we also had so much other stuff that we wanted to put into our style that we felt just wasn't being addressed by other bands. And a lot of the stuff was like, you know, early inspirations for us. I don't want to like disown that. I'm going to try to include those things into like what I'm creating now. So we always we were kind of like the black sheeps of the label for a while, like we felt, because we were kind of a little darker and heavier than a lot of the stuff on Fat. But I think it set us up a little better for transitioning into the next, you know, like into the 2000s, which was kind of a weirder, heavier kind of, it was heavy, but it wasn't. But there was definitely heavier music kind of got back on the map a little more than it was in the 90s. So yeah, you know, we just always tried to mix everything together that we were into. And hopefully, I mean, that's really cool to hear because hopefully we appeal to more than just your average like Fat Records punk rock listener.
Yeah. Anyone who, again, like even my ex-brother-in-law, his catalog was just across the board, but he, you know, him putting you guys on there, like he was like big into
That's
you
cool.
guys. So I thought that
That's
was
really fucking cool.
yeah. And so everyone listening, so Jake here, he's been in the band since basically day one.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty much. I joined like a year after the guys really got it going, but yeah, I joined summer of '92.
so in Wikipedia it says you were in it since '89. So you might
Yeah, that's all
not think that.
lies, dude. That shit. I don't know where that came up. The band was not formed in '89. Like that, I've been reading about that for years. I think we tried to do something press wise like 10 years ago, trying to say it was our anniversary, and somehow the dates got all mixed up. The band started around '91. And I joined in summer of '92. And around that time, they had recorded the Skinny Years demo. That was like April '92. I got in like July '92. So I was pretty much right there when that demo got made right after that. And the band was starting to play parties and starting to do a couple clubs. So luckily I got in right at that moment.
Well, you should go on Wikipedia and update that. I don't know. Like I think I could probably do
Yeah,
that right now. Oh, edit.
it's, yeah. People always say that. I'm just like, well, I don't even care. It's funny. I was like fucking 14 in '89. Like that shit wasn't happening. I wish. I wasn't fucking strung out at fucking 14.
Well, it's a good
Anyways.
starting. This is a good starting point because I always structure it by going back to what got you into music, what got you into punk, what got you into the scene, talk about the band, really focus around that time, and maybe we'll dip into a little bit later on. I kind of like sometimes jump around like we just did right now. Yeah, man. Like so, go back actually, and real quick. So you're the Bring Out Your Dead video is the one that was the first time I ever saw a video of you guys because I was on the
Oh, nice.
Cinema Beer Nuts or Beer Goggles.
Yeah,
But you're
totally.
you're the dude with like the long blonde hair. It looks
Yeah.
like, were they dreads or was
Well, I
it just long hair?
yeah, they were like dreads at the
Okay.
time. Yeah, I had like braids that I just dreaded up and shit. So it's just like, seeing Eric Melvin with dreads and not having to deal with his hair on tour was like fucking wow. Okay, that's the way to go. I don't have to wash my hair. There you go. So yeah, I started doing the dreads.
Yeah, it just becomes dreads. You're like, oh, I don't even have to really put any effort into this.
Yes, exactly. That was nice. So yeah, that's me in that video. That was a funny video. That was shot at the Whiskey. The first time we headlined the Whiskey, it was like '95 at some
Oh.
point, and it was just the live footage of that song, and someone cut a bunch of snowboard bales to it. And I remember getting Cinema Beer Nuts and being like, "Oh, this video fucking sucks." Like everyone else's videos were like funny and like rad, and ours is just live with like snowboard bales. I was so disappointed in it, honestly.
Well, that video like got me into you guys. I mean, my friends that were listening. This is a really long time ago, but my friends were listening to you guys, and I was like, oh, sorry. I knew the name, but when I saw that video, I was like, oh, I was like, fuck. And then I think I went out after I saw that video. This is when I was actually buying records. I went out and I bought Suburban Teenage Wasteland Blues because that was on there because of that song. So
Awesome.
So-
Well, then it served its purpose.
so you made like a buck or whatever
yeah,
the royalties
yeah.
were.
Well, probably like 35 cents.
You made 35
But-
cents. You're welcome.
Yeah, dude, money well spent. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and you got some money from
But,
like streams today from Spotify because those really add up to a lot.
Yeah, I have
of
to get like
money.
45,000 streams to get 35 cents, I think.
Yeah, pretty
It's
much.
fucking ridiculous. But yeah, dude. So yeah, that was funny. I mean, those early days was just kind of the snowboard videos, the skating videos, surfing videos, all the extreme sports. They had punk rock soundtracks basically to them. So we were stoked that, we started getting added onto those with Pennywise and Unwritten Law and some of these other bands. And it was almost like having a song on the radio or something,
Yeah.
being in Southern California, because you went to people's houses, they had surf videos on and skate videos. It was like so synonymous with everything and with that form of punk rock. So it was just natural, being a part of that scene, like, growing up skating, being a metalhead basically and a punk rocker. And then, getting into the band early 90s when metal was pretty much dying off and grunge was just like really boring to play on guitar. So it was like, wow, here's a really cool fusion of like punk rock and metal chops and really melodic killer vocals, like poppy kind
Yeah.
of vocals, but not like sugary teeny bop. It was like cool, like melodies. And it was just like, I was so into it when I first started getting into like, NoFX, Pennywise. I'd been into Descendants already. I'd been into Misfits, but when I started hearing that next generation that had a little more musicality to it, and just a little more better riffing and stuff, I guess, it really was like, okay, dude, this is kind of where I want to put my musical direction now.
We'll go back in time for a second. So when you were growing up, because I was just trying to dip into a bit of what got people into music, because like typically what I've noticed out of 90 something interviews is there's always this weird bridge between there's this feeling that someone says they got when they first heard a song, and then as we talk later on, it's like for me, I almost kind of put the puzzle pieces together. I'm like, okay, so you really liked harder sound, and that's why I led you this. So I kind of just do that on my own along the way. But go back to like when you were young. Like, what was like a song or a band or a video where you saw it and it like just you stopped you in your tracks and you were like, holy shit.
Well, yeah, man, being young, being exposed to a lot of stuff my parents were listening to, like probably a lot of kids are, which at the time I was born in 75. So I was hearing a lot of like Hall and Oates, and I was hearing, Huey Lewis and the News, Michael Jackson, a lot of shit like that. So I was into like, kind of the radio stuff. But my parents also like Fleetwood Mac. They took me to see Fleetwood Mac when I was like 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I guess that's technically my first concert. I have this like image of being up in the seats in like an arena looking down at some stage and like, it's fucking Fleetwood Mac, I guess. But, so I've always just been around kind of just, rock and roll and stuff. And then started getting into like I remember like hearing Let's Go Crazy from Prince, like that guitar solo in the beginning.
Yep.
Or at the end. And it's just like, holy fuck, like I need to learn how does someone make that sound? Like that sounded like magic to me, and then just getting into more guitar type bands, more of the like, Night Ranger and Bon Jovi kind of stuff on the radio. And then, hearing like Def Leppard and being like, holy shit, like I want to like learn to play guitar. Like this is fucking badass. Like I got to learn to do it. I was probably about 12 at that age.
So it seems like guitar was like the guitar was like
definitely guitar. Thing. Yeah. Hearing like Billy Idol and like when it would come to the guitar part, I'd get excited, like I like the song, but then when it came to the guitar riffs, I was like, fuck yeah. So there's always been like, I'm more of an instrumentalist. I don't really like write lyrics. I could, but I've always felt I'm better at just kind of arranging and kind of composing some instrumental type of pieces. So that's kind of guitar always really connected to me and the power of it and just the beauty of it, like everything about it.
Did you take lessons? Did you learn like theory and all that stuff, or
not too much there? I did take lessons for about a year and a half when I first started around 12, 13. I took some lessons for about a year and a half. I was able to get on my feet at that point. I could read tablature and I could like buy guitar magazines, and guitar was such a big deal in the 80s. It was like so exciting to be a fucking guitar player, and you could turn on MTV and it was just all shredding guitar players and guitar magazines on every store like shelf. So it was like a very exciting time to do it, and I don't even know if kids would be into it today like you were then. So but anyways, yeah, it was just like hearing the stuff, and I was just really my cousin had a guitar and I borrowed it from him, and I just kind of started really connecting to it. Where before that I was just drawing. I always wanted to be like an artist, and I would draw cars. I wanted to like design cars and shit like that. So I would draw cars and airplanes and things. And then I just kind of transferred all that interest into music and guitar primarily. And, then got into Metallica and Anthrax and Slayer and like the thrash metal shit. Really, that took me over once I started playing, because I realized this is like this is the forefront of like aggressive guitar playing and technical ability as well. And I'd like to achieve that at some point. So yeah, I just really got into like the thrash scene for the most part.
So how did you get involved in the scene? Were you in the band first, then played shows, or did you start going to shows and then like, I want to be in a band?
Oh, well, just, once I started taking lessons, I met the other guys at school that played instruments, a couple of my different friends in my grade and the next grade up. We'd get together at each other's houses and start jamming. And then, once in a while you'd hear about a show. Like in Simi Valley, dude, small little just suburban town, no venues. Or there's a little place called Cheers, which was like where we would end up start playing. But outside of there was nowhere in town. So it was like a big deal to like go into Hollywood or something back then. I didn't go to my first like rock concert until '89. I saw Metallica and the Injustice for All tour.
Holy shit.
Yeah, which is the fucking most amazing thing in the world.
The scariest fucking thing ever and the most amazing
it was so
thing.
Awesome, dude. It was so amazing. It was fucking amazing. It's still like, I still dream of that show. I like wake up like, what happened to you? but anyways, but yeah, dude, it was just like getting more and more into that. And yeah, just meeting people and jamming with other people and learning from other people and better guitar players that you would meet. And then this dude, Brad, a dude who was about a year or two older than me, best drummer in school, best guy around in the scene. He really just kind of took a liking to me and took me under his wing and started exposing me to like Rush and all these other really interesting types of musical bands that I hadn't heard of. And he ended up getting into Strung Out a bit before I did, and he got me in Strung Out as things would work out about 4 or 5 years later after we had started jamming in the first place. And we were kind of like this team. We would do different musical projects and nothing ever really panned out. And then I saw Strung Out play a party back when I was in like 11th grade. And I was just like, holy shit, like this is like the fucking best local band I've ever seen. And they're like, they're doing the metal thing mixed with like the punk. They were doing like Descendants covers with like Slayer breakdowns. I was like, what the fuck is this? This is amazing. So Brad got into that, and then he got me into it like a few months later. And I was just like, holy shit, this is kind of a crazy party situation. Like these dudes are all older. Jim was a little intense. Jason, I knew from school, but he was kind of mysterious. He was like a year older and like a tagger, like skater. Like I knew of him, but I didn't really know him. But I was just like, that dude's badass. Like, fuck, this band is definitely going to go somewhere. So if I have a chance to get into this, I don't care how intimidating it is or whatever. I'm going to try to ride this through and just see where it takes me.
It's so wild because you know, if you got there in 92, that's like 2002. So it's like, how many fucking years later is that?
Yeah, it's almost, it's 28 years for me.
Wow.
Now that I've been in the band, technically, we're everyone's starting to call it like our 30th anniversary, which it's not. It'll be our 30th in 2022, basically, as far as I'm concerned. But it's so weird because you can say the band starts like when that first record is released, which was 94. Or you could say it started when Jim and Rob first started writing songs in like 90, 91. So it's like, what's really the way to date it? It's all kind of, up to it.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought about that. I mean, like my band, we were really, really small. So I guess I think that I put it as the day that we figured out our band name, because we had transferred from another band into like that. From that moment, that was before we put out a CD. I say that's when, but that's just me.
Totally that's a good way to do it. Like once it was conceived and actually kind of put into motion. So, right. And that's why I do say 91-ish is really when I think that pretty much came to be Strung Out, because Jim and Rob were in a band called Justified Cause before Strung Out, and they were kind of like a prototype of Strung Out with a different singer, but kind of a rougher version. And then that was done, and then Strung Out kind of was conceived around 91.
Were you going to, like, because I talked to a few people from back in the day. I had like Joanna Hackett, I talked to Wendy, and they would talk about that scene back then. So which was way different, way more scary. Like I think Joanna was talking about in Hermosa Beach where she saw it was like Black Flag and where that was like the intense side, and then later on in the 90s it was a lot more welcoming, and that Fat Wreck sound wasn't scary. But when you were at that time, when you before you got into Strung Out, were you going to local shows?
Well, we were, like I was saying, Simi Valley didn't really have much of a venue scene, but there was a lot of bands playing parties. So we would always go to like weekend parties on Fridays and Saturdays, and we'd see all the local bands playing the parties. And sometimes even bands like 10 Foot Pole, which became Scared Straight, or they were called Scared Straight. They would play parties in Simi. No Effects, I guess, even played a few parties in Simi back in the late 80s, which I never saw, but I heard. And like people, Jordan was like older than us. Like he was kind of from the 80s punk scene. And he would always tell us about how gnarly it was and how dangerous shows were. And like, you couldn't go to a punk show if you had long hair and shit like that. And you would just get beat up and shit. So like, I was just like, fuck, that's gnarly. But he would tell me about these crazy parties in the Valley and in Simi and shit. And back before the cops were like, as soon as you make one phone call, they'd be there. Like, people would just throw big old ragers in like the hills and stuff. So we would go and see bands at these parties, and that's where I saw Strung Out, and that's where I met a lot of these other local players that kind of got me into the position to end up getting into a situation like Strung Out, that then was able to meet Mike and able to start playing shows with Jughead's Revenge. These dudes started helping us out, putting us on other shows, got us on shows with Green Day in like 93. Before Green Day broke. We were opening up for No Effects. We were opening up for Pennywise. So we were like definitely suddenly, now we were out of the Simi scene into like the actual LA punk scene. And yeah, it wasn't really dangerous, but I was just like, holy fuck, like this is crazy. And I'm 17 and holy shit, I have to be at school tomorrow, but fuck it, dude. This is exactly what I want.
So like when he was talking about when I forget the time period again that she talked about it, but she said she went to a practice and she just showed up, and I don't know if it was you guys or was Pulley that she showed up. I think it was you guys, and she said she's like, I just show up my laptop, I'm doing work, and I just look up and I'm hearing these guys, and she was like, what is this sound? She's like, this isn't punk, this is something totally new and different. Do you remember that at all? Or that might have been
I remember Wendy being around. Probably it would have been like 95, 96 when Jim and her started hanging out. So around that time, we would have already been fairly established. We would have had our second record out probably and been, pretty much full-time touring at that point. Pulley was also probably forming around 95. I think they recorded the record right after we did Suburban. So that was like, yeah, I think it was 95-ish.
Okay.
So yeah, when he would have been in the mix right around then. And yeah, very exciting time for our scene, because you had one end of it blowing up humongously mainstream with Green Day and Offspring and Rancid to a lesser degree. And then you had the next wave of Pennywise and Bad Religion and NoFX. They were doing very well. And then us and Lagwagon and, Propaganda, Good Riddance, we were like the next breed, and our levels were following. We're all following suit. So it was just like, holy shit, like we're all like one song away from being like millionaires right now. Like this shit is fucking happening. Like this is crazy. It was a very exciting, crazy time, but at the same time, still very down to earth, very cool, working with Mike, working with Fat and our booking agent Stormy, all just friends, like
Stormy
people.
Daniels, is that it?
No,
oh god, Stormy Daniels.
Oh
yeah,
God.
Wow, I'm gonna cut that out.
Maybe Stormy Daniels booked bands too. I don't know. That's a whole nother scene.
The woman who fucked Trump.
But no, Stormy Shepard from
Stormy Shepard,
Bookings,
yes,
fantastic lady who's been booking us since I think 94, 95. So and so we were tied in with the right people, but they were the casual, cool. It was the right scene to be, because they were just friends. We've always just had this great rapport with all the other bands, and very supportive. And we all felt very in it together. And the older guard and like Offspring, they had this huge fucking massive success going, and they invited us out. They would invite us out for like a week, and Kevin Noodles would like straight let me and Rob like share his hotel room with him and his tech and stuff.
Shit.
And like they didn't have to do this shit at all. They could have just been like, fucking see you guys. But they would let us like come party in their bus. They'd let us crash in their hotel rooms, on the floor, on the, if we don't have money for shit back then. So it was pretty nuts, dude. Like just seeing it happening at that level, like all around us.
What was it like when you joined the band? So kind of jump back a little bit. You get in the band and you guys start playing. So they had been established. They played for a little bit. You jumped in it and got in. And so like around that time when you got in the band, was that when Another Day in Paradise was already recorded, or you guys were about to record that?
Right when I jumped in, that was being written. Like the wow. Another Day in Paradise record is probably about half written. When I got in, a lot of those songs were done. I would go over to Jim's house after school, and he would just be in his room, sitting on the edge of his bed with his little 4-track and his guitar, and he would just kind of write songs as they came to him. And we'd put them down on the 4-track, and if I had an idea, I'd throw it in with him. But he was just kind of this like stream of thought, like musical just genie that the shit was just coming out of. So I was just like, holy shit, like, okay, dude, like let's remember that one. That's a fucking great one. And he'd be like singing to it as he's playing guitar, and like almost getting caught up on himself because he's doing it so fast. And it was something crazy. Like that dude had just a remarkable ability at just expressing himself through his music and his songs. Not the best guy at expressing himself day to day as a human being, but through his music, it was just this vehicle for him to, and look at the connection that he's made with people through his music. And a lot of those songs are still like our biggest, most long lasting favorite songs. So he just had this amazing gift. So I was just trying to just absorb that, and just contribute to it. But I didn't write a lot on Another Day in Paradise because I was the new guy and I saw Jim and Rob's vision. So I was just like, okay, dude, let me just learn this and play along. And if I have, I threw in a couple little parts, but it wasn't really until Suburban that I really became more of a writer in the band.
Was it intimidating though? Like, did you find, because it's like you're a young guy, you're getting this band established. It's like, you're right. It's like whenever I used to get a new job, I'd always come in and I was just kind of quiet. I'd scope the area out, kind of get it. And then once I got comfortable, then I was like, okay, now I'm going to introduce my personality. And people were like, totally. Oh, shit. Okay.
Oh, for sure. Just like, yeah, absolutely. I was like that. I was certainly I was a little quiet by nature, but I was certainly like the fly in the wall. Like, okay, let me just see how these dudes are doing this and absorb what I can. And I was a decent guitar player, but to play and match Rob was pretty daunting. And it was a big challenge because he was 4 years older. He just has this natural ability. Like the dude is just like a natural at it. Like has never taken a lesson and was basically as good then as he is now. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to fucking do everything I can to become as stable and good as him. But it took me a good year and a half of being in the band to like honestly match Rob. And and Brad was writing all the drums to Another Day in Paradise. He stepped up things significantly between the stage of where the band was with like the Skinny Ears playing to where it was on Another Day in Paradise. Like that's basically all Brad Morrison creating that growth in the musical, in the drum department, and then when Jordan got in, he took what Brad had done and took it to the next level. But Brad completely created all those parts. So it was, very, very cool for me and Brad to finally achieve something. And I was really looking forward to creating an album and releasing an album with Brad. And then he ended up quitting the band right before we did the record. But just learning, just trying to really learn as much as I could from everybody and from the other bands we were watching, to watch Green Day before they were huge, but still seeing like the star charisma that Billy had and that those guys fucking had. And I had never seen anything like that, especially in, they're playing like 400 seat rooms, so to see that up close was very educational. And like, I've just tried to be a sponge and take in whatever I could from every band we played with, every guitar player.
What were you guys like when you guys started playing shows at the time? What was how many people would show up to see you guys play?
Well, if we weren't doing much headline shit because it was just kind of trying to support other people. So like if us and Jugheads did a show, it'd be like 150 people, If it was the Green Day shows, they were like 300, 400, No Effects. We played with them at this place, Cheers and Simi. I think it was like a 200 cap, and it was sold out. But like they were doing like 200, 300. Things weren't humongous, but they were solid. And then you had Offspring and Green Day at that point stepping up, playing 2,000 seaters, 3,000 seaters, and things like that. And dude, it was just kind of And then once our first record was out, then it was like, holy shit, people are singing our lyrics back to us like that. I remember that being like a huge game changer.
Yeah.
Like when we put out Another Day in Paradise. Wow, we're drawing 50, 60 kids in a city now, and they're singing the words back to us. Like, that's insane. That was fucking so cool.
It's the coolest thing ever when they're singing lyrics back.
Right?
Like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah. You're playing to these people that you've never met, that you don't know anything. They don't know anything about you, but yet they love your music. So they're singing it back to you and they're paying money to see you. Like, that was all just like, holy fuck, like, this is so cool. And we need to like really just live up to this and just keep growing and building, which, we just kept doing and kept doing.
Well, it sounded like when Jim was in the band, who was the person who was really leading the charge and said, this is our practice schedule, this is what we're all gonna go out on tour? Like, who like set the precedent and you guys were like, okay, that
was certainly Jim. That was definitely Jim. I mean, Jim, his father owned a carpet business in Simi, so we would practice at their carpet store. Jim owned all the band equipment except my equipment. He owned the drum set. He owned, Brad had his kit finally, but like he owned Rob's amp. He had all the gear, and it was basically the Jim project because he was very determined and he was a great songwriter. And Rob was very determined too, but Rob had a job in the movie industry doing lighting and stuff, which he still does. So he had like this other gig going. So Rob was always kind of busy with that. Jason, we weren't really sure if he was going to be in the band or not. Like we saw that he was great at it and that he had this amazing talent for it. But the first couple of shows, like first couple of practices, he wasn't there when I was there. And Jim was just like, yeah, we don't know. He might not be in the band. And I was like, oh, dude, that sucks. He's got to be. Like, that dude's great. And Jim's like, oh no, I think I might just sing. And I was like, all right, dude, like you write great songs, but yeah, I don't know about you being the front man, dude. So it's just like finally Jason like really committed to it. And, me and Brad were great friends.
What was the thing that like made him like, what was the deciding factor for him?
I think just seeing that the ball was like rolling with it and that it was like going to amount to something, because it became pretty apparent, like, wow, like all the dots are getting connected here. Like we're meeting the right other bands. They're actually giving us a shot. They like our demo. I remember the Pennywise dudes would come out to see me just to hang out with us. Wow. Like Byron liked our demo so much that he would just come hang out with me and Brad at our house and we all get drunk. And it was just like, holy fuck, we're hanging out with Byron from Pennywise, who was like gnarly legend, even though like they only had one record out at the time. It was just like, to us, it was just fucking like hanging out with Paul McCartney or something. So it was just gnarly. And like, we were just really trying to like, just keep the ball rolling. So I think Jason saw that, okay, look, there's people interested. Like, okay, I'm going to actually really commit to this. And, Jason's an artist. So he's always been a little like, he goes with his heart first. He goes with like, and his heart ended up coming to the band, which is awesome. So, and we just kept it going at that point. But it was definitely Jim made most of the contacts. Jim was the driving force. Jim was the guy that would potentially punch you in the face if you showed up to practice drunk. So, it was, there were factors to it, but he was certainly the Brian Wilson meets fucking, I don't even know who to compare him to. Fucking, he was like a drill sergeant, but he knew what he wanted. And it was, it was inspiring to be around someone that driven.
Did you guys all want to I mean, when I was younger, all I wanted to do when I was in my late teens was be in a band for my rest of my life, and I do it for a couple of years, and that was it. Did you guys all have that? I mean, granted, I know Jim did, and then Jordan. I mean, him being in the band and being in two bands, sound like he did. But did you guys all kind of, when you were all coming together, just like individually, just be like, I really just want to be in a fucking band the rest of my life?
Well, I certainly always had that. I mean, for me, this is the one thing that just stuck out above everything else, and it's something that I've actually been able to sort of have, some success with. So I feel that it is the right course for me, like it's some sort of destiny thing for me, So absolutely, I'll be doing this till the day I die, or till my fucking fingers fall off. But as far as the other guys, I think we all had that in us where we wanted to do it, just as long as it still felt relevant, as long as it still felt good. I remember Rob saying to me, I want to be in this band as long as like we're still going up. And that's an interesting thing, because Rob has this gnarly career he can fall back on in the movie industry doing lighting and stuff. It's a union gig. It's fucking a once in a, like, people just dream of these sorts of opportunities that he has, and most people would probably choose that over a life of touring and of instability and of the record industry. But Rob loves the music side of it so much that he has balanced it the entire time. And I always felt like by now he probably would have just kind of put the band aside and just done full-time movie lights, but he actually chooses the band over that career now when it comes down to it. So, and honestly, we haven't just been going up our whole career. We kind of peaked in like the early 2000s, like, as far as sales wise and draw and stuff. And we still do pretty well. There's peaks and valleys. Our last couple of years have actually done really well, but he's had every reason in the world to go, what, this band isn't what it was. I could fucking I need to go do my job. But he loves it still, so he's in it. Chris, I know, is a lifer. He wants to play music forever. And Jason is it's still in his heart, so he still loves it. And Jordan loved it too. It's just Jordan, the wheels are starting to fall off, and it's a hard gig to maintain when you're getting up there. And it's just something you got to throw every fucking thing at if you want to still condition yourself for it. And, unfortunately, he wasn't quite able to do that. So now we have RJ, who is the same age Jordan was when he joined the band in 1994. So we have about another 25, 30 years with RJ. So we're good.
Wait, how old is RJ? He's
29 now.
Oh, wow. God, that's going to be nuts. It's like when it's like a couple of times through history I've seen drummers come into a band that's been around for a while, and they're like, or like some member comes in and they're like the younger person, they have all this fire and they're so excited, and it kind of brings a little bit more life back to the band. And not that there's like it's all gone, but it just kind of adds that extra, like, oh shit, this is like, even
it's a chemistry, dude.
It's different. Yeah, it's like
it's
this
an
is
absolute chemistry again. Yeah, you're basically playing with chemicals, 4 or 5 different chemicals, and how those personalities relate to each other and work and combust with each other. I mean, it's a chemistry thing. You put 2 different people in a room and you'll get 2 completely different conversations. You'll get violence, maybe. Yeah. You'll get sex, maybe. You'll get who knows, but the chemistry is fucking crazy. So you do that with people and their music, and it's what we needed to do in our situation to still exist.
That's a great way to put that. Just 5 chemicals on stage.
Yeah, and that's kind of what our Astrolux kind of symbolizes as well.
As the what?
The Astrolux, our symbol, it's that nuclear symbol that we've bastardized and made our thing. Like, I was
gonna ask you about that. Like, how did that come about? I know I'm kind of jumping around, but like that has been the symbol since basically Twisted by Design came out. I remember that was right when that was the one that was in my face. But had that been designed prior to that and on merch, or like how did that come about?
Well, it was, but it was just the standard nuclear shape. You can see that on the old Cross logo on our first record. You can see it on the Suburban TV. It's just a traditional kind of nuclear symbol at that point, the atomic symbol, which was kind of just symbolizing energy and kind of just the high energy of our original concoction was to basically be like the fastest, highest energy punk band you could be. So we kind of gravitated towards that symbol, and then Jason just tweaked it and made it more stylized and to represent the 5 of us. And yeah, you're right, that came out with the Crossroads and Illusions EP, and then it came out on Twisted by Design, which were both released in 98. So yeah, that really first came into being in 98.
Yeah, I remember that when first time I saw that, we were on our second tour and we were in Florida in Clearwater. My buddy Casey Lee Morgan, who eventually became in the band, we were at his house and he had the poster up. It was for that record, but it was like you guys and someone's like squirting mustard across,
Yeah.
and it like landed on a hot dog or
It
something.
like hit the dog. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was taken at a little hot dog stand here in Hollywood. So yeah,
this is the stupidest question, but that was Photoshop, the mustard, right? That was
I think so. That's me squirting it, and I wasn't looking, but I don't think I hit it with the mustard. I mean, that'd be favorite. I should just be a full blown mustard marksman if that was the case. So yeah, I think that was probably some early Photoshop going on there.
I have to find that fucking poster. It's such a random, minute detail, but it just, again, this whole thing is just triggering like weird memories from back then.
Yeah, sure, man.
So like right before, a couple years before Twisted Time, like what was it like when you guys got in? Because you guys traveled in a Winnebago. Actually, my band played with you guys. Well, I mean, we were small. Like we played with you guys at this place called Planet Trog in Pennsylvania, in like Allendale.
Okay. Yeah, I do kind of remember that.
Allentown. I think it was
Allentown.
I think it's
Allentown. Was it by a college or no? That's somewhere else. I
think so. It was this club, really high stage, and this was like 1999. So again, out of all the fucking shows you guys played, I don't expect you to remember.
But you're right. We would have been in like a motorhome in that era.
Yeah, and I remember I said that to Wendy in the interview. I was like, they were in a Winnebago. She's like, oh, that's what they like toured in. Did you guys get that to start with that, or did you start with a van?
No, that was like just a Cruise America RV, because we've always had different like vehicles. We started off with this shitty white van that we did for our first couple tours, and then we started taking out like tour buses because Jordan could get like really good deals on them. So we'd take out like old beat up like 1960s tour buses, and they'd break down halfway through the fucking tour. So we were like, okay, those things kind of suck. So we started just taking like little like Cruise America RVs, which we would fucking destroy these things, dude. Like I feel so bad for the people we'd return them to.
And what would you do? What would you
do?
Well,
they're just not built for the fucking road. They're not built for 5 to 8 people being in them every day for 3 weeks. And the drawers are all coming off. We'd bring in extra mattresses, and build like a bunk bed in the back.
Oh God.
And then we'd bring in TVs and all this extra shit. So things were the cabinets were all breaking mostly. The plumbing would break, like all that shit. And sometimes we would just rent them from like little mom and pop like RV places, and fucking we'd return it, and like they'd be so bummed. And we'd owe them like all this extra money. So yeah, around that time, but those were all just rentals. Yeah, we weren't trying to buy anything like that.
I don't think I've ever heard of a band that rented shit when they went out every time. Bands would always own or be whatever. They'd have their own van or piece of shit van, but you guys would just rent them.
We would just rent shit, yeah, because we would, I don't know, like we always had a pretty big crew. We always had 5 of us and like 4 crew, so it was a little packed in a van. I mean, we ended up buying our own van in 2003, and then we did have just like a blue Ford Econoline for ever since then for most of our like domestic touring, and now we have a newer Ford F350. But yeah, we kind of were just in the renting mode, and we would rent tour buses because we could get them for pretty good deals. But those things are like $30,000 a month, and it didn't take too many tours till we were like, you know what, like it's nice having it, but that's an extra like $4 or $5 in each of our pockets right now that, I'd rather make that right now. So we kind of stepped away from the buses.
Yeah.
After that. And, we purchased the van at that point, and we've seen significantly more money in our pockets from touring since we owned the van. But then you're responsible for the van and the maintenance and all that. And we fucking put like almost 300,000 miles on the 2003 we had. Jesus. Just got rid of that thing. So yeah, we just got a new one, pretty nice one. So that'll hopefully put another few $100,000 on it. And we still rent buses if we have like a long, like gnarly tour, like a 6 to 7 week tour or something like that. We'll do at least like a bandwagon, which is like a smaller tour bus, or we'll do the big 45-foot bus. But like I said, they're just fucking expensive.
So like you guys legit, is this like your full time? I'm gonna jump around, but is this your full time gig?
Yeah, oh totally.
Wow.
As long as we're busy, as long as there's no coronavirus.
Oh yeah, that's right. God, I actually, it's funny, man. We've been talking for like 40 minutes, and that time, this is the first time I think. Well, I've done a couple interviews, but it's nice. This is the first time in like a couple days where I forgot about that whole shit. I don't know. I definitely don't want to fucking talk about it, but like, yeah, that's got to be kind of a fucking bummer for a couple months where you guys can't go out.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy thing, I mean, just getting back a little bit before, yeah, we do primarily make all of our living off this band, so we want to have a busy tour schedule. You want to tour about half the year,
Wow.
Have about half the year at home. So that's generally what we do, which isn't that bad, That's pretty easy to balance. It's like a month on, a month off. So we do that pretty consistently. Last year was very busy for us. This year was actually going to be our most booked year in a long time. So it's a bummer that we had 2 European tours that are now on hold. We have Japan shows in July that are on hold. Well, they're all being rescheduled, basically. They're all being pushed back till August or, later. Our whole US Canadian tours are being so right now we're just chilling, just in limbo, but it's not the worst thing for like a writing perspective, because I'm doing a lot of writing right now. And I'm doing a lot of just maintenance playing. I'm playing more guitar now than I would be on an average day, for sure, because I'm sick of watching the news. We're not touring. We're not even practicing. So all I can do is practice at home and like send the guys ideas like through text and stuff, which we're doing a lot of.
That kind of brought up the question I was going to ask. So like, I know that, so for, you guys parted ways with Jim after, which record was that?
That was Twisted by Design.
Twisted by Design. So you get parted after that. Was there a moment in that, because he was so heavy-handed in writing songs, where did you guys have a conversation and go like, fuck, this could go either way? Or did you like, no, we got this?
Yeah, we were very confident in our ability to continue it at that point, because Jim, for all of his talent and all of his incredible God-given ability, was becoming a total dictator and was becoming someone that was just impossible to work with in a band environment, in an equal, because we've always been looked at as an equal partnership, equal. Everyone gets 20%. Everyone has an equal say. Everyone's vote counts the same. Like that's always that's how we started it. And I think that's really what's kept us still unified through a lot of shit. And Jim started changing that. He wanted to start calling all of his songs, Jim Cherry written songs, and he wanted to pull all his publishing control on those songs, which means everything from the money coming goes straight to him, to he didn't want to like let us put any of our 2 cents into the songs or change anything, which was just fundamentally just not how the band ever worked. So it was just like, dude, like, yeah, you're writing good songs, but we want our 2 cents in there, dude. We want to be able, and we want to make it so it's still an equal thing. This isn't just, we don't want you to be separate from the band, which is what it was becoming. And, and all things, if that's how you want to be as a songwriter, that's fair. You can pull your lyrics, you can take control of your stuff and take all your money for it if you want, but you might not find a lot of other people that want to work with you. So, and I think it takes a band to make it, like one guy, you can be the best songwriter in the world, but if it's just you, if you're going to have a limited, I don't know, you're going to affect less people with it than I think it's really important the way we all filter each other's songs through us. Yeah. And it creates the strung out sound. I can't write these songs just on myself, and none of us can. It takes all of us to make them be what strung out songs are. And, as much as I love Jim's stuff, if you listen to the Zero Down record, which came after that, they're great fucking riffs, great, cool song. It's a badass album, but it's straight unfiltered Jim Cherry. And lyrically, it's pretty fucking bleak. And it becomes a little bit of, I'm not trying to dog the dude. I love the dude. He taught me so much, but we filtered his shit through us. And I think that's what made the Strung Out thing a little more palatable than if it had just been Jim on vocals, just Jim's vision 100%. It's a pretty fucking gnarly, it's a pretty gnarly world that Jim dwelled in. So I just, I think that it was really important that we all had that chemistry within us. And yeah, when he left, we had learned so much that I think we were like, let's just take off like all those restrictions Jim was putting on us. And Jim was very like, you guys are being too metal. And it's like, dude, you grew up liking metal too. But he started being very conscious about like us being too metal and not being punk enough and stuff like that, which we were always like, fuck that, dude. Like punk is doing what you want on your own terms, on your own rules. It doesn't need to make sense to anybody else. And who gives a fuck about what these punk rock critics are saying? But so we were like, you know what? The gloves are off. The fucking blinders are off. And that's why we put out that Element of Sonic Defiance EP, which was very different from anything else we had done. And it was just straight up, you know what? We're going to put out something that doesn't even resemble what Strung Out has been.
Well, I was going to say that, like, how long did it take you guys to kind of find your way between, because your albums, you put out Element of Sonic Defiance 2000. Well, this is also what's on like Spotify, so the years could be off. But then American Paradox came 2 years after that. And, then Live in a Dive was a year after that. I mean, that's live, so that's different. Then Exile and Oblivion. So, like, you guys put shit out, like, very close to each other.
Yeah, we were still in the same, like, let's put out a record every 2 years.
Yeah, but it's also, like, when you're dealing with that shift in the scene, too. So, you got a lot of crazy stuff going on. You got Jim leaving the band. You guys are, like, trying to be like, all right, what direction are we going to go with this? Let's do whatever, this new style or.
It was right before the shift. So like we were like, fuck it. Like our scene is fucking, we're like set up to be the next No Effects, like we felt like just, this is the route it's going, like No Effects are set up to become a bigger thing. Our bands are set up to become that level. So it was this very, like, let's take any negativity out of here. And and also I felt like there weren't a lot of bands doing what Strung Out was doing in like 98, 99. Like this is right before Thrice hit. This is like Atreyu and all this stuff where things got a little more metally and like more shreddy. And there weren't a lot of bands doing what we were doing, like with lead guitars and double kick fills and stuff like that in punk rock, in like 98, 99. So I think we were just like, let's try to like harness our own scene too. Let's try to like keep growing and try to carve our own niche even more. And Exile or Element of Sonic Defiance, I think was just like, and it went over people's heads at the time when we put it out. A lot of our fans were like, what the fuck is this? This doesn't sound like you. And they didn't like it, dude. Like on the early message board shit and stuff, like we got a lot of hate on Element. But you know what? A lot of those people, it's like their favorite Strung Out record now.
Really?
And it's one of those things
that cult classic or whatever it is? Or?
It took just kind of getting it into just digesting it a little. Because it wasn't just like Twisted by Zion or Suburban. It was completely different. It was weird. It was, I mean, to me, it was just the next evolutional step. But it freaked some people out, So as a result, I think American Paradox was a little more okay. Let's go back a little more to what people expect of the band.
Who would you guys mostly record with? Like who produced? Was there like one person? Because I know Ryan Green was a big producer back then. Did you work with him, or did you like?
We actually jumped around. We jumped around from all kinds of people. Because Ryan, you're right. He was like the dude, and he did like a lot of bands' entire catalogs.
Yeah.
But we love Ryan, and he engineered Suburban, and then he mixed Elements, and then we ended up doing some stuff later with him. But no, we used Donnell Cameron on our first one, who is a legendary dude. Used Ryan on the second one, then had this dude Max Norman mix the second one, who's a total like metal guy who just kind of was buddies with Ryan. Then we had this dude Ulrich Wild do the third one, who I don't think has done anything else in like the punk rock scene. He's done some like metal shit. And then we went back to Donnell, and then we did this guy Darian on. So dude, we've used so many guys. Then we started using this guy Matt Hyde, and then we used Cameron Webb, and then we used Kyle Black, and then we did our last one with Cameron Webb. So we jump all over the fucking place.
Well, I guess I was like, where I was going with that was basically because you're going into Element of Sonic Defiance, and typically if you were using the same person, they would have probably stepped up and been like, so what's happening here? So it doesn't sound like you had anyone to really be that person to make you guys question that. And you're like, cool, it's full, freedom. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Absolutely. We didn't have Jim there going, you guys need to be this. So it was just kind of like, fuck yeah, let's do whatever we want. And then you're right. Darian, who recorded it, he was just like a dude, the really cool engineer who we had never worked with, didn't really have any history with us. So he was like, cool, let's just do what you guys are into right now. And then Ryan ended up mixing it. But I remember Ryan being into it too. He was pretty into like the drumming, and, him and Jordan were always really close because Ryan's a drummer. So they would spend a lot of time on the drums. So I know he was like pretty stoked on the project. But I look back in hindsight, I really wish we hadn't done that as an EP. I wish Elements and American Paradox had been fused into just one album, and it had been just 13, 14 songs, maybe four from like Element, and like 9 of the best ones from American, and it made that just an album. I think that would have actually been a lot better for us.
What would you pick from Element to be the 4 songs?
Gosh, it's hard to say. Maybe the weird ones like Savant and Blue, and even Mission to Mars, the heavier shit. And then maybe some of the stuff like Subterranean and Cemetery and Velvet Alley and some of those from American Paradox. I think all those together would have made a pretty incredible record. But that's all in hindsight.
Yeah.
I mean, they're cool for what they are. But it was a weird thing because when that EP came out, it didn't really get the attention we were thinking it would because it was an EP. And then by the time American Paradox came out, things had kind of shifted, and it didn't get the response that we were expecting when it came out. So it was kind of like this little window there that we kind of missed. I think if we had just fuse those two.
I love that you're calling it an EP and there's 8 songs on it.
Well, yeah. Well, we didn't look at it as an EP. We were like, this is a full album. Like,
Yeah,
this
that's what
long.
when I didn't even think of that until you said EP, and I was like, wait, did they add songs on Spotify? I was like, what the fuck? It's like, no, it's 8 songs. Yeah.
The bummer is it was considered an EP though by the label, by distributors, so it got like no push. It got like no attention when we're like, dude, this is like the fucking best thing we've ever done. Like, what the fuck? Why isn't this getting more attention? And everyone's just like, oh, it's just an EP. Like, it's not just a fucking EP, but okay, obviously that's what it's going to be looked at now. So that's why I look back in hindsight going, oh man, we kind of squandered that. If we had just made those songs with some of our better songs, if we just kept writing for like another 6 months basically, and then made a full length, that could have been like perfect timing. It could have probably been our like biggest record, but whatever, dude, it's all good.
Did you find that there was like because that 2002 to 2004 is when it really was shifting, and these newer bands came out, like you said, like Thrice, Taking Back Sunday, Brand New, that new sound. Did you find that there was bands that were coming out in that time that you were like, that caught your attention, you really liked, and then you were like trying to maybe take some of that style and incorporate that in your writing?
I really liked Thrice. When Illusion of Safety came out, I was basically blown the fuck away. I was just like, holy shit, this is kind of what we should have done, because it kind of had a skate punk quality to it, but it also had these like heavier hardcore breakdowns and like intricate guitar parts that, like I'm saying, not a lot of bands had been doing up until then. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, dude, these guys are giving us a serious run right now on all this. And it's like, that's sort of where I dug them. Can't say that about most of those bands from that era. Most of them I do not really enjoy, but Thrice was fucking great. And then we played some show the day American Paradox came out. Is like April 20th of like 90 or like 2002 or whatever that was, 2001. And I remember the show we played, Taking Back Sunday, were on the show, and they played like before us, and I had never heard of them before. And I was like, these guys are pretty good, and then it was seriously like 2-3 months later, they were like on the cover of every fucking AP and whatever, it was just like, okay, something's changing here. Like, how are these bands getting all this fucking hype when our bands, we're working our asses off and couldn't really get any press, so it's like kind of a funny thing that all of a sudden these bands were getting all this press.
It's kind of like the 80s when all these bands like Poison, Def Leppard, they were the arena rock, and then grunge came in and like fucking atom bombed that shit. But
Totally.
Now those bands can play, and there's a nostalgia thing where people, like, I think from here until all of them die, they can keep playing and just
nostalgia, that's kicked in big time, because basically it was like every decade would have a backlash. Whatever's big throughout this time, the next decade is going to look at that as kind of passe.
It's like ska too. Like ska did that. Now ska bands, like, they play. I mean, I don't think they could. It's like as big, but they can come back.
I think it's just human nature that sort of happens, where something people are all about something. And to be totally fair, the Fat Records, Epitaph, skate punk scene was totally overexposed in like 99, 2000. There was so many fucking bands. There's so many that sounded exactly the same that weren't really doing anything with the scene to push it forward. And it was kind of just spinning its wheels. So I get that something had to come and kind of change, and Thrice were kind of a big band to do that, and a few others, for sure. But, but then, like you're saying, like, things become a little passe. Like, we did the Warped Tour in 2005, and that's like the lowest point of my entire life, because
really?
we're on the Warped Tour, which is basically, it started out as like an exposition of like Southern California, like skate culture. The early ones, it was, pro skaters out there with skate ramps, BMX riders, motocross, a lot of, punk rock bands that were, from all over, but a lot of the Southern California kind of skate scene was that, Warp magazine was a surfing magazine, I think. So it was so great to be on in those early incarnations. And then 2005, it was basically like if Hot Topic had like sponsored the tour, and it was all about just like screamo and just super teeny pop punk, just like the worst shit, in my opinion, of that entire genre. And it was, I'd have to be around that shit every fucking day. And those bands were drawing thousands of people to watch them. And bands like Us and No Use for a Name would get like 500 people in front of the stage. And it was just like, what the fuck? Like, I remember having a meeting with the band after that going, is this really been worth it? Is this really, like, should we just fucking stop? Is it? And we were like, fuck it, dude. No, we like it, so we're gonna do it. But it put that thought in our heads, like, what the fuck has happened, you know? And it wasn't just us. We were kind of hanging in there okay, but a lot of other bands were just like, they couldn't get anyone to come see them anymore. It was a strange time because these other bands weren't that different than punk bands. It was just they had more makeup on and, like, you know, funny bangs. But
well, they just followed the money though. There was no heart. I can't say it was no heart, but a lot of those bands, you could see them from the outside, and you're like, this is such a fucking bullshit show. You're following
how long
the
were they
dollar.
around? You know?
Yeah, and then now they're
it
gone.
kind of shows.
Yeah, and they're
exactly.
crap. And there was like that disco punk era that came around where I did like Head Automatica because I was a huge Glassjaw fan.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
yeah, Glassjaw's great.
Yeah, I like love that band. But I felt that there was essence to that. And then you'd see these guys with their fucking hairstyles and all this crap, and I was like, what the hell are you guys doing?
It was kind of the
right
80s
now?
coming back around where the look became more important than any sort of song substance, in my opinion. And, you know, the punk rock community was
100 fuck. That's what I call it. I was like, this is like the fucking 80s happening
It
again
was.
in punk rock.
And it was funny to see it because I remember the 80s. I was a kid of the 80s. So to see it again, I'm like, you motherfuckers. And they'd be wearing like Iron Maiden shirts. I'm like, oh, really? What's your fucking favorite record? You know? So, but it was just one of those things where it's just like, okay, this is kind of what's going on. We'll just outlast this. We're just going to fucking keep doing it. You know, we'll tuck our heads down and just fucking do what we do. And, you know, we did Warped Tour like 2 years ago and it's still fucking weird, but it's like, it wasn't that like, now there's like no headliners. Like back then, at least you had like big headliners. Now it's like, who the fuck are these bands? And Andy Black is headlining Warped Tour, and like, what the fuck is like? It was funny, dude. It's just like, I'm just old, you know. I'm fucking old, but it's funny to see it come from what it was.
Well, I mean, it's funny too because the Warped Tour, it ended whenever the fuck it was recently, but then the next year they had like it's a 20-year reunion. You're going, didn't you just end this? Like,
I know.
What the fuck?
They won't let it die. It's a fucking zombie.
Yeah,
the fucking Warped Tour zombie is back. But we'll see. Hey, you know, we'll play it if they want us to. But it's just funny, like, you know. But to me, I always just like going out with like 2 or 3 other bands, you know, that we love, you know, like, and in those days we would take out a lot of harder bands in the 2000s because, like I said, a lot of the bands in our scene stopped. So we took out Poison the Well, we took out 18 Visions, took out Haste the Day, took out Bane, took out Snapcase, like all kinds of like hardcore. So, and we love hardcore as well. So it's just like fucking awesome to have those guys with us. And it would bring a bit of a different crowd, but a lot of the crowd was really cool and would stick around for the whole show, you know, and watch every band. And that's something that I really appreciate is when you draw a different, you know, you have a mixed lineup and the fans stay and watch the whole show.
Yeah, that's a hard ask too, especially if people are going there for the headline, they're going to show up late or they're going to be there with their arms folded. But there was always that band that would play right before the headliner or like 2 before, and then there was a little part of the crowd that was going nuts for them, and you're like, wait, what is this? And you'd watch it. Like I remember seeing them, the Suicide Machines, play with Face to Face when their self-titled came out. It was like 98, 99, and there was the couple in the front, and I was like, this band's fucking amazing. Of course, that's like going way back. But that was always a hard slot because people were like, we don't fucking care about you playing right now. Like,
well, it's tough, man. But sometimes like that band right before you is drawing as many people as you or more. And sometimes like those people all leave before you go on. So like you get to the show, you're like, oh, it's sold out, it's packed. And then you go on, it's like half full. So like, that's not the place you want to be either. So it's all about, you know, it's all about hopefully the fans having enough of a respect for the entire, you know, show to get
yeah,
one.
And that's hard. I remember it was like maybe 10 years ago. I saw Every Time I Die. I went to go see them in the city in New York when I was living there, and then Bring Me the Horizon opened up for them, and there were so many people there for Bring Me the Horizon, which I do like that band, but like this is like they weren't that great live, and they were still trying to figure it out, but they had such a presence. But as soon as they left, like a lot of people left, and I was like, wow,
yeah, it's
like,
a bummer.
Jesus,
it's a bummer, but like I look at it as like, why the fuck are you leaving? Like you paid for this show. Like every time you die sucks. Like you like Bring Me the Horizon and not Every Time You Die. Like really? But it's these scene kids that are like, no, I'm just there for these guys. You know, fuck those guys. It's just like it becomes a polarization, like a tribalism amongst music fans, which is fucking the last thing music should have ever been about.
Yeah, the only time I've done that recently was when I actually went to go see Quicksand. I went to go see Rival Schools a couple years ago. I'm not gonna keep talking about their bands, but like I saw Rival Schools a couple years ago, and I was so excited to see them because first time I saw them was they got back together the night that Obama got elected the first time, and they were like a 4-piece, which was great because they sounded full. But then the second time I saw them was in 2015, 16 or something like that, or no, 14, and they were a 3-piece, and I was like, so they played it. I'm going, you guys are the headliner. I came here to see you, but you need that other guitar player. So I like left. And then Quicksand played recently in Carborough in North Carolina, and I went there and I was like, oh my God, fucking Quicksand's playing. I'm so excited. And then they were a three-piece because I guess their guitar player got arrested for stealing shit from like CVS or something. And so I was like, God damn it. I walked out. I saw 3 songs. I was like, I can't. I was like, this is just fucking ruining it for
Well, I
me.
mean, that's one. It's a bummer if it's not a complete unit, like that shit happen. That shit happens. That just happened to us. Like in Australia, I showed up at the airport and the fucking Australians didn't get me a work visa, so they didn't let me on the fucking plane. So the band had to go do, I think it was 8 shows as a 4-piece without me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and luckily they were supporting Pennywise. They weren't headline shows, so like it was a shorter set, so they were able to pull it. But it was still like a disappointment, especially for myself. But I know some of our fans down there were like, "Why is it just a 4-piece version?" But shit happens. That was like paperwork issues where someone in their immigration just didn't grant me a visa. They didn't deny me a visa, but it was just in this limbo and it never got granted. It's completely fucked. So it sucks, man. These things happen,
What is it like? I know I like to stay and I could jump back in the nights, but like, what is it like now? Like for you guys been doing this for so long, like when you go out on the road, is it as exciting? Like, what does it feel like?
Oh, dude, I still love it as much as the first show, honestly.
That's
like
crazy.
To me, to get to play music, to get to have anyone come out that fucking cares about what we're doing and drive however far they drive and spend the money they're spending on the ticket. And then, dude, that means so much. Like, that's just incredible. I cannot get over that. And because I'm those same kids, I was the same person, like would go to shows, as soon as, and once I started touring, I wanted to like watch every band we played with, and it's just, I don't know. Like, I just have this love for the environment. I love being around it. I love being on the road. I love hotels, stupid shit. I like truck
crazy,
stops.
Dude. That's wild, man.
So, but not everyone's like that, Certain guys in my band are not all about it all the time. But for me, it's very relative. It's like, what else could I be doing that I would be, number one, like creatively fulfilled with, and, financially okay with. And it's just, but also getting to meet people. Like I said, this means more to our fans than it even means to me. Like a lot of times, like our songs, like they'll get shit tattooed on them. It's like, Jesus Christ, I've never gotten anything tattooed on me from another band, and I'm a musician, but they see something in us. They get so much out of us for some fucking reason. So I'm going to live up to that, and that means I just want to work harder as a guitar player. I want to play better. I want to, go off harder. And now playing with RJ, who's just giving me this insane like energy. Like he's so fucking intense to play with. And so now I'm like, to match him, like my right hand has like gotten so much gnarlier, like at like picking and like really matching him on like everything he's doing. Where with Jordan, I was trying to do it too, but things were just a little looser. So it became just kind of like, all right, I'm not going to like put the effort into it. But now it's like, holy shit, this is like a machine. So that is so exciting in itself to like up our game. And then to just look out there and see those few hundred kids just going nuts. Like, I can't get over that, dude. It's just a dream to me, man, still.
That's great. That's awesome to hear, because sometimes bands will be around for a while and you're like, they're just putting in the motion, just like doing the motions, and you're like, oh, I can see that.
Well, I'm not going to lie, when you're out there for, if you're out there for over a month, like overseas or something, it gets draining. And there's times where you're like, I just need a fucking night home. Like, fuck, I don't want to do this. But like when it comes time to actually get up there, like you can't give anything less, you have, I mean, this is what you do. And we're lucky to have this chance to do it. So many better guitar players than me in the world that don't ever get a chance to tour and make records and get out there and do it. So who the fuck am I to be like bitching about it? Or not holding, not trying to give it the respect it deserves. Even if it's a small show, like, we still play shows in certain parts of like fucking on the way to like Oklahoma City. We'll stop somewhere and we'll play to like 40 people, that shit happens. Like on our last tour with the Casualties, we were selling out shows all over. And then a couple shows were like, 40 people, 70 people. But those shows are almost more fun in a way, because you can just get up there and like, you can almost play for each individual. You can see them all. You can kind of respond more to it and give it almost, I almost enjoy those shows in a weird way.
Well, yeah.
Because it's like, less pressure. Like I don't have to put on this rock show, but I can like almost perform to you personally. Like I enjoy something about that.
Have you guys, are these like small clubs where there'll be that, or these are like a
Oh,
big
sure.
ass club? Yeah, so you
Yeah,
feel,
well, hopefully not too big of a room, right? You don't want to play like 1,000 seater with like 40 people, but you know, I mean, we average at like 300 to like 600 seat rooms, so it'll be like a 350 cap with like 50 people. It'll be empty, but it'll still be 50 people up front that are fucking having a great fucking time. They drove who knows how far to be there, you know, and then the next night will be 500 people sold out. So it's like you get both, you know, and sometimes I'm not trying to say I want to play to 50 people every night.
yeah.
But when it happens, it's like you can almost digest it a little more, and you can almost like practice. It's almost like band practice where you're like, we can actually try some different things tonight instead of worrying about like any little fuck up or something.
I always had this theory when I was, not always, when I was younger. I remember thinking, like, I think it was No Effects at the time. I was like, man, if these guys, and this was like 17-year-old stupid me, just with ideals at 17 that didn't mean shit. Like, you know, I was like, they'd be a true band if they would just do a whole tour playing like basement shows or small clubs or stuff like that. Have you guys ever done a tour in recent years where you made it, or not a tour, like maybe a weekend or a week where you guys did like something small like that, like played a house or played a really small, like something that wasn't a big club?
Well, we've certainly done them over the years. Like, we would play little house parties once. I mean, we do private events for people like weddings and shit. You know, once in a while we get hit up by people, come play our fucking reception. So we've gone to like Seattle and played a reception. We went to Pittsburgh to play a wedding, and then they fucking canceled the wedding like a week before we were supposed to get there. So we had the plane tickets and everything. So we just went and booked 2 small shows at the small venue, the Smiling Moose, just this little place in Pittsburgh, and we did 2 albums like back to back each night.
Oh my god!
And it was just like, it was a way to like make use of the plane tickets, and we just played like a little bar. It was probably like 150 cap, you know, because it was like an unadvertised. We weren't trying to like do a show in Pittsburgh. We were just like, we're gonna fucking be there. So yeah, we made it a super fun thing, and we had all our Pittsburgh friends come out, and it was a really good time. And you know, so we'll do those small little events. I mean, even as recent as like, I don't know, 99, we would be on our normal US tour in our tour bus, and we would show up and play 1 or 2 basement shows on the tours because it would be like the only place that would do the show. And it'd be like the First Unitarian Church in Philly, you know, that place.
Yeah.
Like that hot box, you know, that's not a basement, but it's basically a fucking hot box basement, you know? So we were playing that place up until the 2000s, and some little basement type things, and fuck it, dude. I mean, if there's power and there's a place to stand, we'll play.
Have you guys thought about doing one of those live things that everyone during the whole coronavirus shit's doing? Like all these bands,
like a stream.
Yeah, like Goldfinger just did it, and it's awesome. If you haven't checked it out, I don't know if you're like a Goldfinger fan, but I don't know how they did it, but they all have really good equipment, I guess, because I guess they have money. I guess Mike from MXPX is playing bass for them now or some shit.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Yeah.
So they're at their own homes?
They're all
playing together?
No, they're all separate at their own houses, but they had video cameras set up and then microphones. And I know John's like a crazy producer, so he probably uses magic on that. But it's really cool. So they all recorded it, and then they I think they streamed at the same time, but then live. But then they put it out where you're watching it and it's going back and forth between the members. But then during the chorus, like John will be the top bar, and then like they'll be split in the bottom with 2 of them, but they just edit it all together.
Right.
It's fucking sick.
Yeah, I did see something like that the other day. It was 3 guys playing YYZ by Rush, and I couldn't figure out if they were somehow playing live together in a live stream, or if it was like recorded, you know, like layered over, like this guy sends it to him and then he plays it and sends it. So yeah. Either way, that's fucking awesome. It's been my dream for years that like, you know, iChat, like fucking video conference technology gets to the point where you can just practice at home. And just each guy can have his little like interface, and you can just plug in right there or just set your level, and we can just jam with headphones on all at our own homes, like live. And
I bet you could probably do that with Zoom.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing, you know, and obviously you couldn't have a latency. It would have to be like, you know, no delay.
Right.
But I think we're pretty much there. So that's what I was wondering. Are bands able, because if we're able to do that, then fucking we'll do one like tomorrow.
Oh,
you know?
I bet I do. I mean, every fucking band out there is doing this. Even that, or it's the singer, like Jerry Munich, he was doing live stuff acoustic, and then Ben Gibbard from Death Cab, every single day he's just going live on YouTube and playing,
yeah,
but by himself. Cool. But But it's like revitalizing. It's because it's so quiet right now because everyone's inside, everyone's online
Oh, I
watching
think
what's going on.
it's wonderful that people are doing that and exactly entertaining any way they can, putting what we do out there. That's wonderful, and I would love to do that. We're not the most tech savvy people generally, so us trying to like record that and cut it, and we'd have to get some people involved.
Yeah, I mean, but you guys have
straight up.
connections.
But yeah,
I'll bet anything you should reach out because you guys probably know obviously a shit ton of people. You just reach out to any producers you know or bands or just text them and be like, "Yo, like, are you guys doing this? You anyone can do that?" I bet you can go down to just follow the breadcrumbs, and I bet you could find someone who's like, "Oh, dude, I'll fucking do this for you." I bet you anything, someone out there will be like, "Oh man, I'll fucking do this for you." Like, no problem.
Right. No, because we were talking about doing a live stream like all together in a room. We've been talking about doing that for a while, and we were looking at doing that. But then over the last few weeks, obviously, we put that on hold, knowing that the studios are all closed anyway. So even if we wanted to get together, it wouldn't really work. But dude, that'd be fucking awesome to be able to do that. Just basically do a live, stream of any album. We'll play like whatever record you want to hear.
Oh
we'll
man,
those
that'd be
songs,
crazy. Just play that like straight through. That'd be fucking sick.
Well, let me see. Let me. I mean, I'll talk to a couple people, and if you know anybody that's putting that shit together, please let me know because we would definitely be all for it.
Yeah, I'll see if I can like reach out some friends. Like they were more because what started this podcast was we have this Facebook group that's focused on the late '90s scene that was all Jersey based. And my buddy put it together in 2009. It was just kind of like here and there. But then the last couple of years, people really started commenting. So I had done a podcast for my business, and it was really boring and it sucked. But I technically knew how to do it. So I said, hey, let me just do this. And I reached out to people. So the group is like really revitalized, and the podcast is helping. And then last Friday, my buddy Jay Vix, who runs the group, he did a show where he had 8 people, gave him 20-minute sets, and he used some live stream technology, and he had it in the Facebook group, and it was a concert for 3 hours.
Oh wow!
And it was so amazing.
Rad.
So I can
nice.
I'll reach out to him and ask him, but I'm sure I can find someone.
Yeah, let me know because we want to do whatever we can. Obviously, I guess without physically being in the same room. So anyway, we can make that happen. But dude, fuck yeah, dude. I mean, I love that bands are doing that. I saw the Dropkick show. I thought that was incredible.
That was awesome.
That was so cool they did that. So yeah, I mean, I'm not the singer, so I can't really do sing-alongs myself. But maybe I'll do some guitar videos.
You should.
I know Chris has been doing a bunch of guitar videos. Like he's got like a setup at his house. So I'm going to get a little practice amp over here, and then maybe I'll start posting some things on our page and just putting up some, playthroughs of the songs and little lessons on certain things or whatever. But make the most of this.
Yeah, Mike from Linkin Park, he was breaking down his old songs and being like, here's how we wrote this and stuff. But
yeah, exactly. Any way you can connect right now, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And people like really definitely need it.
Yeah. So you're out there in Jersey. I love coming out through Jersey.
So I grew up in Jersey and I moved down to Raleigh about 4 years ago. But I mean, we grew up playing in the scene. Like I said, we started playing in 97, and then we played about 2001. We broke up.
Right.
But that scene, that whole era was what.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it was so great. Did you guys ever, when you went through there, do you ever play like any local shows like the Wayne Firehouse was a big one, or Skaters Worlds, or like what clubs or venues do you remember from back then?
Yeah, well, we would play a place in Asbury Park that was just back when Asbury was fucking scary. That was like a skate park in one of the old exhibit halls there.
And convention hall?
It was something like that. We played there with Bigwig.
Okay.
And I think Josh put the show on. I think he promoted the show. So it was just some fucking crazy old like exhibition giant room on the pier.
Yeah.
The show would go off. We played there twice, and then played somewhere else in Jersey. I forget where. It's some like ballroom, I think. What the fuck is it called? Yeah, that place.
Yeah, yes. Starland. Yeah, that was like the big venue in like central Jersey, and then Asbury had Stone Pony, which I think it still does. Then Asbury Lanes.
And then the Lanes. Yeah, I love both those rooms. Stone Pony was incredible. We played there a couple years back, and then we played the outdoor stage there, and that was so awesome too. And then the Lanes are amazing. Played the Lanes a couple times when it was the old Lanes.
Yeah,
and I love it. And just played the new Lanes, and it's super nice. It sounds great and super nice, but it doesn't really have the vibe of the old one, but it's really a great place to play too.
Yeah, that was like first time I went to the Lanes, it was I've had a few interviews where it was like I talked to Brendan from Lawrence Arms and we were talking about slapstick, and there's a couple bands where I was like, yeah, it's like because they had finally found their fan base probably like the late two like the past decade of the 2000s. And
Yeah.
but I say with like, it's like Fest, there's kind of like this beer punk thing where everyone's just kind of like all bearded out and flanneled and just drink shitty beer and like
Totally.
IPAs and watch bands play and shit. And
Right.
it's like that the Lanes kind of reminded me of that place where that's that crowd, they'd go there. They'd go there to see that.
Yeah, it was cool, man. I dug the Lanes. Like the stage was right in the middle there and stuff. So it was kind of DIY. Like it reminded me of like some early rooms that we would do in like the mid '90s. On some of our first couple tours. It brought back a lot of memories of like the Fireside Bowl.
I was just gonna say that, the Fireside, yeah.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed like that vibe of it, even though it wasn't like the best sounding concert hall or anything, but just really had some character to it.
So are there any like random crazy I know you have 30 years of doing this, but any like wild stories that you want to talk about a tour or anything like that?
Oh man, well,
I'm sure there'd be a few, but
where do you start? What decade do you want? Well, it's been a wild time in every regard. I mean, I was killed on stage and brought back to life. I don't know if you heard about that.
What?
We were in Europe. This was 2002. Yeah, I think it was like June 3rd, 2002, or no, June 3rd, 2003 actually. And it was right before my birthday, and we were doing these festivals over there, Deconstruction. It was like a big festival tour, traveling shows, and it was like NoFX, Boy Sets Fire, Mad Caddies, we were on it, bunch of bands were on it, and we playing our set, it was in Holland, and the second to last song, I go up to like say something on the mic, and I just grab the mic, and I'm fucking I'm frozen to the fucking mic, like something wasn't plugged in right with the powers, it like wasn't grounded, or I don't even know, and basically I had my hand on my guitar, and I think I had a hand on the mic, and somehow it sent all the power like fucking through me. And it fucking blew out the sound or the lights on the stage too, and it sent me back like fucking 10 feet, and it threw me into Chris, who was tuning his bass right behind me, and when it hit him, it sent him like 5 feet, sent me fucking into the monitor board like another 5 feet, and like I just came to basically just like with blood all over me from I had like hit my head, and like I just couldn't breathe, I couldn't fucking see anything, and like one of my techs was just like slapping me, like trying to wake me up, like just get me to revive. And because when you get hit with a hit like that, it basically just shorts down your system, your heart stops, your breathing stops, everything stops. So I was basically dead for I don't know, like a minute or something, and then he got me revived, got me to start breathing, where I actually had to like forcefully kind of like inhale and exhale. It's like this fucking, it was fucked, dude. It was gnarly. And then there were paramedics all around me, and they took me and Chris to the hospital after that. And luckily it was like the last song of our set.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So we finished our set, and he took us to the hospital, and they kept us there for a couple hours just to make sure that things, were okay. And I don't know, like, I'm not sure exactly. No one can tell me exactly like how long I was out and stuff. And I don't know, like they told me that it seemed like my heart had stopped, but I don't remember shit. I just remember coming to and like looking up and seeing everyone looking down at me like I was fucking dead, basically. And I was still holding the mic in my hand when I like finally stood up, and like I was like, I was like holding that mic. So that was pretty gnarly. And then I just remembered like getting back after the hospital that night, and like, festival's wrapping up. And I was like, okay, who's got the blow? The guys in like Boy Sets Fire were like, Jake, no, just go to bed, Jake. No, because I was like raging pretty hard back then. And I was just like, no, I want to party. But I was just like, okay, you're right. I should not do anything stupid right now. So yeah, it was pretty nuts, dude.
I don't think you want your heart racing any more than it did prior to that.
No, not that time. And like, it just felt like my whole left side was like hit by a truck. It was just like the craziest shot. And I had a whole newfound respect for electricity after that. And, I have some friends that are electricians, and I've always heard like it can like cut your fingers off. It can like cut off like things, if you're wearing jewelry and stuff. So when I first came to, I thought like I was fucked up. Like I thought I'd probably blown out my ears or my eyes or something. And luckily I just had blood from like a gouge in my head that I'd hit. So it wasn't as bad as it fucking could have been by any extent. But I guess I was dead for like a minute.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that to be a story.
That was cool. There's a time, Metallica opened up for us on the same stage. I like to say they opened up for us, even though it was a surprise gig. but we were playing a festival in London, and we were set to go on at like 6 p.m. And we get there that morning, and they're like, dude, Metallica's playing on your stage at like a surprise show at like 2 o'clock, like unannounced. And we're like, what the fuck? No, they're not. Metallica's not playing on our stage today. And we walk over there, and we see all the Metallica gear like behind the stage, like all their cases, all their fucking drums. We're like, holy shit, they're fucking playing on the stage, like crazy. So like they did like some weird unannounced thing. They weren't even supposed to be at the festival, but like they're about to, like, this is like 2003, so I think they're about to put out a record, and they just did the surprise set, and then it was insane. The place went fucking crazy. Everybody from the other stages came over to this like side stage that we were on. They didn't even play the big stage. They played the side stage. And it was just the most insane thing to be like on the side of the stage watching them.
Wow.
And then they got their shit off. And then then our band started playing, and like Thrice played. And then we played like 4 bands after Metallica. And it was like just weird being on the stage going like, those guys were just fucking here. Like, that's crazy. So, 15-year-old Jake would have been losing his shit right there. So, and like later that was at Castle Donington, like the Donington Raceway in England. So like we fucking took a car out on the racetrack that night. Like me and a couple of buddies like borrowed someone's car and took it out onto the fucking track. So it was just a day of like insanity, like crazy, like events like I would have dreamed of doing when I was like a little Hesher kid, and then like able to make that shit happen kind of. So, just like a moment like that I'll always remember, like things like that.
Do you find that when you go out on tour now, you try to find like some random craziness to do, not as insane as back in the day, or?
No, not really, dude. We're pretty fucking damn chill. Like these days it's pretty much play the show, take it easy, get to the next show. And if you have an off day, maybe you'll have a few drinks, but that's pretty much, I don't even really drink before I go on stage anymore. Like I used to quite a bit, but now like I'll have like a mixed drink or like a shot or two right before I go on. And then I'll maybe have a shot or two through the set, so a little bit, but pretty modest, dude. Like, I'm 44 now. It doesn't look great to be like getting shit faced in your mid 40s. So, and plus I'm trying to like be a better player. I'm honestly really trying to be a better guitar player. So, just focusing more on that and still smoking a ton of weed. That's basically my thing.
There you go. Were you doing that like
over chill?
Were you doing that more back in the day when you were playing, like your first 10 years? Were you like,
yeah, dude, I've always been a stoner, dude. I'm primarily just a stoner. Like that's all we really are. We have our own beer now, so like Strung Out has put out 3. Actually, we put out a beer last year, and we're about to put out 2 new beers like in the next week, actually. So by the time this airs, we'll have probably a couple more beers that you can mail order from us that we'll put up all the information.
Wait, but you can order it through you, or is this like this is obviously you team up with a brewery to do this, right?
Yeah, well, what's Lucky Luke Brewery is making our beer, and they're a great brewery in Palmdale. They've made 3 different ones for us. We have a golden ale. Now we're releasing an IPA, and we're releasing like a hefe, like a citrus wheat hefe. So we're gonna have 3. And you can order it through a place called craftshack.com. It's like a mail order beer place. So they send all kinds of beers. And it's a little expensive because there's shipping. So it's like $50 for like a 6-pack of like 16-ounce cans, I think. So it's kind of spendy, but they're fucking really good. And they're over, there's like 6.4% and 6.1%. So yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be definitely seems to be a thing I've noticed in the recent years. Like Deftones put out a beer.
Yeah.
Now that I'm on their webpage, it's like Slipknot's got one, Alien Ant Farm.
Yeah, dude, so many bands do. NoFX had one.
Yeah,
so, and then,
I heard about that.
Yeah, we just kind of, I was giving guitar lessons, and one of my students worked for this place. And he's all, dude, would you guys want to do a beer? I'm like, fuck yeah, we totally want to do a beer. So I just got it going with them, and we talked about the type of beer that we like and what we want to do with it. And they knocked it out of the park. They made a really great beer. And these next 2 are really great too. So, but anyways, that's a little off subject.
No, it's perfect. I mean, Christ, everyone listening to this is most likely beer and bourbon drinkers. So
check out our Strung Out pages in like the next couple weeks. By the time this airs, maybe it'll be up already, and we'll place a place. And we also put up like a quarantine T-shirt that our fans can buy if they want to support us during this slow time. We have a funny like T-shirt we put up of all of us in like straight jackets. So just trying to do like certain things to like offer some stuff for our fans while we can't be on the road.
Actually, that was going to lead to the. I usually end with 2 questions, but that was the one before the last one. I always ask, "What do you want to plug?" But it seems like you got it, unless you want to add to that.
Nah, man, the beer is like a good thing to check out, and then, like I said, we'll probably be doing more like video stuff on our sites, like instrumental playthroughs and things like that. And we're talking about doing some recording projects here in the next immediate future, like month or two, but we can't put too much information out about that yet. So just check out our social medias, and we'll have all the news coming up on everything.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to link to all that in the show notes, so everyone listening will be able to. Yeah, I see the T-shirt.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, dude, you got the quarantine stay home shirt with the
I was like, whatever, man.
What's what do you call the symbol again? Is that nebula or
the Astrolux is what we call it.
Oh, okay. You got the Astrolux.
It's very 90s term. Could have been a Smash Mouth album. But anyways,
who designed the shirt?
Our buddy Takashi, our buddy in Japan, he does art for us. Jason does most of our art, but this dude will send us designs from time to time, and he just came up with that one. We're like, holy shit, this is perfect, dude. Thank you. So yeah, Takashi is an incredible artist, and I think he's linked to the shirt as well on our page. But dude, just trying to keep the ball rolling, but definitely coming up with a lot more music. So we're maybe we'll just write our next record now instead of next year, like we were kind of planning.
I don't know, man. You guys got time. You got plenty of fucking time where this thing starts to fade
exactly,
out,
dude.
So.
We'll write a couple records. We'll see how long this lasts.
You have like fucking Melancholy, Infinite Sadness, like the double album.
Yeah, 42 songs. But
it's a total of 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I've been thinking this is going to be a really interesting time. I mean, it's going to be a crazy time to look back on, but a lot of interesting art is going to come out of this.
Yeah,
and I think some really intense things are going to come out of this time.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of positive things are. I mean, a lot of shit's gonna come out, but I mean, it's just human history, dude. There's always that weird fucking thing that happens, and it's life being life.
Hopefully, it's bringing people together.
Yeah, and I think it has, and
yeah. So we need that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like I have this comic that I draw, this daily comic, and one of them I wrote was like, I think the universe is giving us a timeout right now. It's like,
dude, totally. Dude, I think about that too for the planet. This is actually kind of excellent. Like, it's actually a great thing for Earth that like emissions are super down right now, and like there's like a vibration. The Earth like vibrates from like all of our traffic and all of our movement, and it's kind of calmed down recently over the last couple of weeks. It's like humming less.
I saw
things are working better.
So Travis, and I'm going to let you go in a second, but Travis from Buddyhead, it was this website years ago. And
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed him a while, like about 15 episodes ago. And so I follow him on Instagram, and his sites, his account's fucking hilarious. But he posted something, I don't know if it's true, but it was saying like, just how clear the air is in LA right now because no one's fucking driving out there.
That's true. It's true. There's no planes in the sky, like barely. Yeah, you can just walk across any major street in LA. It's fine. There's no traffic. It's fucking surreal.
Yeah,
surreal.
I bet the animals are probably like, this is kind of nice.
Yeah,
like, and all those douchebags are not fucking everything up.
Yeah, and not to minimize it, the human toll. My heart goes out to anyone that's lost anybody doing this, anyone that's sick and battling. I mean, it's fucking just so fucked, and it could have been somewhat prevented. It could have been. We could have been more prepared for it, but it is what it fucking is. But the silver lining, in my opinion, if there's anything, is at least the Earth is getting a little bit of a break from some of this goddamn, pollution.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think that it just got a bit too fucking hectic, where I think people just needed to chill the fuck out because everyone was just getting really fucking mad all the time. And I was like, you know what? It's like, everyone, you're fucking staying home, and
Yeah.
Facebook's definitely gotten worse, so it's like, can't even go on that to begin with, but it's goddamn, it's like I really can't go on it now.
Yeah, I gave up my page back in like 2011. I was like, this is a fucking horrible platform. The band still has one, but I never go on it. But yeah, dude, I mean, hopefully it just makes people realize the things that are important in life and not so worried about the bullshit and the fucking things that we can't control anyways. But we all want the same thing, right? We all just want to be safe and happy and doing what we love in this world. So I don't know, man. Let's all get back to that.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, Brendan from the Lawrence Arms was like, people just want to have a good time, and it's just like, that's it. So
it's like Bret Michaels said, man, nothing but a good time.
Yeah, he was having like fucking mad orgies back then.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up, and
all right, Mike.
So one more question. So I end every episode. What scene ethics do you hold on to this day?
Scene ethics, well, I think it's just our scene. I'm so proud that's always been incredibly supportive and very encouraging of any artist at any level, and it's been very open and accepting, and I'm very stoked to be a part of a scene that has been like that, and that we do it. You do it for your own terms, you do it to make yourself happy, but you spread love in the process, and just try to just put out the best music you can, but just always be giving with it. And just, if we take out a band that's never been on the road before, I love to show them the ins and outs, so they don't have to experience it and fall on their face like I did. So yeah, just always be generous with those that are, coming up.